Hiya, this is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in the student accommodation all the way in Scotland. Wait, that was years ago. You're listening to ShowX Live with your favorite Scotsman Ken, currently residing in the US of A, and Wayne, mostly from Colorado.
Hey, wait a second. I'm on the show too, and I don't get any billing at all? Well, I know how to solve this. Soldater, Fremad, March! You're listening to Show X with our favorite Scotsman Ken, our child of the corn Wayne, currently living in Colorado, and Todd, who now has an army of angry Norwegians at his back. Enjoy the show!
Hey, everybody. Oh, sorry. I need to adjust for this one, too. It's been a while since I've been on the 2-box one, and so I've got...
oh, yeah, right? That's something we don't have to prepare for, usually.
I've got Ken's camera looking all big and open versus how
That's the way it should be. Hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to Ken's show. Also, Wayne is here.
Oh, come on. Oh, I know why. Did I click the wrong button? I need to unlock it. That way I can make you the
while you're doing these things, hello everybody, welcome to ShowX. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday, the 25th of October.
Yeah, give it to us, Ken.
Yeah. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We very much appreciate it. Be sure to say hi to us in the chat so we know that you're there and alive and everything is going well. Today we're going to be discussing mobile gaming as our main topic, but I imagine we're probably going to float around a little bit before that, because I know I've got a couple little things I'd like to talk about. How are you doing today, Wayne?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I think when Todd gets here, he had some cleanup he wanted to get into as well. And on the subject of today's mobile gaming discussion, feel free to jump in. And if you have some thoughts on what the current state of mobile gaming is, primarily what I'd love to hear from people, and you're welcome to email in to let us know, is are there any mobile games you currently play and that you're enjoying? We do have an email in from Ionis that we will talk to when we get to that section. So looking forward to all of that today. But yeah, so beyond that, I did want to share, although I don't know if it'll come through the stream well because the lighting will change here. But as we talk about the season, time of year, and stuff like that, it is currently, and this is where I say it might be too bright for it to adjust for, but it is currently snowing out here in Colorado.
Nice.
And for that. Temperature is down. Where are we at? I think it got down to under 20 degrees, I think, today. Currently, I think it's... No, yeah. Oh, it is 12 degrees right now here in my hometown, which translates to what C? It's negative, like, almost 15 C or something, or negative, like, 12 or 13 C.
That's crazy, dude. That's insane for October.
Well, and so to give it a bit of understanding, yesterday, I think I was walking around yesterday in a t-shirt for the most part, maybe a coat over when I went downtown, but essentially the temperature dropped some 40-ish, 30, 40-ish degrees. So yeah, and tomorrow is supposed to be, I guess now it's going to warm up compared to what it is today, but overnight we're supposed to get down to about 1 degree, almost 0 Fahrenheit.
My God.
And so what's that translate to all of you in other parts of the world? Negative 17 C is what it's supposed to get down to overnight tomorrow.
You know what I really... So this is a total tangent. You know what I really dislike is when people come up for terms and names and acronyms for something that is not truly indicative of the cause or the concept or whatever. For example, global warming, right? I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, global warming isn't real because it snows sometimes."
Oh gosh, yes.
That means that a huge number of people in the world who are ignorant, maybe not intentionally, but like, I'm sure a lot of them are just genuinely are in the unknown. They don't understand, and they're being taught, and that's not necessarily their fault. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who think that the global warming is a hoax because it snows, right? And I've heard that. I've heard people say that
who don't understand.
And it's mad because global warming is all about the average temperature year on year throughout different seasons, right? If you look at the moving average for the past couple hundred years, which we have all the data for, you can see the massive change, especially in the past 50 years, especially in the last 20 years, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's important to look at. And I just wish that it's now people use climate change now because that's more accurate. It's not just about the warming. It's about the fact that there's more extremes happening. There's weather-related disasters happening, and that's all due to the fact that the carbon output and such, right? But there's just this faulty name of global warming. Everybody thinks that's what it's about, but it's that's just one of the aspects, not the whole. It's not the most descriptive term.
Oh no, it's a thing that I've talked about a lot with Lemon and stuff is how important language is, right? The use of proper language, understanding the terms being involved. And one of those key ones is that, like you said, it's not global warming, it's climate change. I think it was Legend who just brought it up where, and several of the things that we've talked about on the show that and I try to be more accurate with it now, but it's physical distancing, not social distancing, right? It's, when you're trying to limit how you share virus and germs and stuff like that, it's the actual physical distancing that matters. Social is just something that caught on and things like that. It's similar to in the US, the discussion about, quote, defund the police, that because it's such a very divisive mentality, some people believe what it's on the surface stated as literally taking away all money from any police force to exist and thus getting rid of police, which is not the actual intent of it. And I've seen this a lot on social media that confirms people's misunderstanding that in reality, it's a discussion about where money that is currently allocated to the police could perhaps better be spent such that you could reduce the breadth of responsibility of the police force, where they would not be needed to respond to cases that would perhaps benefit better from a mental health specialist to be involved in the situation.
Yeah.
And thus associate the funding properly. And that doesn't also take away from additional conversations about, as well as provide better training and better tools and better things for the police to do the roles we need. As me commenting it, and maybe not the best way, I try to distill it back down to an easy consumable of situations where you need someone with a gun to enforce something versus situations where you need someone to talk.
There was a famous case a few months ago where this kid who was like super autistic, right? The poor guy had like to the point where he was like non-verbal, and he was currently having a meltdown. He's a big, strong guy, right? And he was having a meltdown, and the mother was getting overwhelmed, and she was like, "Look, this just due to the circumstance, this has never happened before. I need help. I need physical help to help hold the kid down, and then I can calm him down. I just need physical help because he's like tearing up this restaurant or whatever." So they call the police and again, this is when you need somebody who's like a social worker, right?
Yeah, it's because 911 is what you dial or whatever, right? The health
it's what you
number.
Dial for everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Like whether you're stranded at sea, stuck up a mountain, or you're getting shot at, or you're having a heart attack, you call 911, right? Same with this situation, you call 911. And what happens is two on patrol cops come in with a gun and a taser, and they tase the kid over and over again. And eventually they had to fire a gun at him because he was getting angrier and angrier because they kept hurting him, right?
Yep.
Because he's an autistic kid who didn't understand what was going on. All he knew is that he was getting attacked. So, that was not in what situation can an autistic kid having a tantrum end up being a shooting? Like, how does that happen?
And that's a big part of that conversation. It's
a terrible phrase.
Yeah. So not getting into the whole politics behind it, but it is that importance of using language that truly identifies what the subject is. And unfortunately, where we live today, where so much is captured through memes, things online that are, as I describe, kind of the headline you would get in a newspaper. It's how do you distill an entire, what could be very nuanced conversation or subject matter into something that can be read in a matter of moments or seen as a single image. And the problem with that is sometimes people take that as the answer. And that's our caution.
They don't read the article.
Yeah. Our caution here. That's like 80%. And that's true across so many things. So I think that's part of one of those cautionary things from us here on ShowX is to go beyond just the gotcha, the headline, the thing that's up front, and get to the substance in anything. Yeah. Right. So, other things going on that we want to talk about, and we can get into the subject here right away because to start talking about mobile.
I've got two things I need to bring up. I need to give
Okay.
shoutouts to. So first one is the usual. On Wednesday we have what was originally our show, but it was originally called the Novelty Book Nook. Thankfully, my buddy Graham went and did a research on our behalf because he's been a fantastic supporter so far, tuned into every episode and suggested and gave us feedback and stuff. Very much appreciated from listeners. Thank you so much. And he said, yeah, I found this website where somebody else has something called the Novelty Book Nook, and it's a blog that's a review, and it's literally noveltybooknook.com. Check it out, actually. It looks pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty much what we do, except it's not video, it's written, right? And that's still too much an overlap. I don't want to tread on their feet. I realized that we should have done some more research beforehand. And so yeah, we're going to look into changing the name, and we're thinking about changing it to what did I say we were going to change it to?
I remember I saw it in the we had our little in-show chat. I thought it was novel when you said it.
Yeah, good one. Where are my pros at?
Yes,
I think it's a kind of a funny play on words, and hopefully appeals to people. I think it also gives a clear indication of what the show's about. And also the fact that the problem with the original title is we had the word novel in there, which kind of implies we're only going to be doing novels, but which generally implies fiction. But we might also want to do nonfiction, we might do biographies, we might want to do whatever, right? So I guess prose just means any non-structured format, which means not poetry, right? So I think prose is a good phrase to have in this new title. So where's my pros at is what we're changing it to. And, it's not so bad because we didn't have a Twitch channel. We didn't have an Instagram. We're just piggybacking onto the ShowX stuff, right? So all we need to do is just change our graphic. That's pretty much it. And the name of the show in future episodes. So it's not
no
a big
harm
deal.
yet.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. So thank you again for all the feedback. We'll be on Wednesday. We're going to be doing the Halloween Tree, is the book that we're covering on Wednesday. We're
nice.
having a discussion about that. What's interesting is this is a favorite from Kitten's childhood, right? And she loves it. She absolutely adores this book. I just read it this week, and I didn't care for it. So we're going to have an interesting discussion back and forth about why she thinks it's amazing, and probably partly nostalgia and the things that she really enjoys of Ray Bradbury's writing, the guy who did Fahrenheit 451, whatever it's called. And how I didn't like that book either, by the way. So I'm going to be talking about how I just generally dislike this author. Apparently, I don't like his way of writing, and it's going to be an interesting discussion. So be sure to tune in. It's 6 p.m. EST. It'll be 10 p.m. GMT this coming Wednesday, live on this channel right here, twitch.tv/VtWShowX. As well as that, you can check us out on YouTube.
Awesome.
The second thing that we're doing, which is a little bit more off the cuff, is on Halloween Eve, assuming Wayne doesn't have any plans to do anything himself, we were hoping to hijack the stream because we're going to go out for a Halloween walk. We're going to have a Halloween picnic in a graveyard, and we're going to do a little stream and maybe tell some ghost stories and get ourselves all freaked out and have a good time. And I know a lot of people can't go out and do Halloween stuff this time of year, well, this year at all, really, because of COVID and everything. So we're hoping to do something that's kind of antisocial, away from people, in a graveyard at Halloween where nobody's going to be there. And hopefully you guys can enjoy, doing something Halloweeny with us. And I think that'll be a nice, fun thing to do. And I have no doubt that we will get freaked out, staying in a graveyard on Halloween in the cold and the dark. And we're going to have a couple of thermoses to keep us warm and sharing ghost stories. We're going to get freaked out, and it's going to be funny. So
nice.
Be sure to
are you
sure to tune.
Are you going to be bringing like your own portable light or anything like that to have at least a little glow so you can share on stream so we can see your faces? Or so it's kind of Blair Witch-ish?
I'm hoping
get some chem lights.
Yeah, we've got some torches and stuff, and we've got our phone lights, and I think that'd be enough ambience. Really, we don't need to be perfect, right?
Oh,
yeah. But the only thing is, we're going to try to get a portable power source of some kind. I mean, being able to do the show live is going to be tough. So I think what I'm going to do is leave the laptop running, tell it to run, and somehow Skype into myself from my phone and do it from there, right?
Well, I was going to say,
that's what we're going to try to do.
You can, through the Twitch app on a phone, you can do a direct stream.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
brilliant. We'll do that then.
So the reason I
We'll
said
do
that
that.
is you could do it all from device. If people remembered, I've done live casts from our various Comic Cons and stuff like that I've been to with little things. You can actually stream completely from your phone. There's
Awesome.
the quality associated, so unless you have like external stuff to attach to it to make it better, but it does work. And if you're at night and it's like that, it should be fine. That's what I was going to say. You could probably set up with just give yourself a little stand, something so you don't have to hold it the whole time, and a chem light or two, so you just have some light on yourselves, and you could probably do the whole thing.
So what we'll probably do is, if I'm streaming from my phone and Kitten has her phone, she can just put on the torch on the back of her phone, and it'll be very bright. I'll be blinded, but you'll see me, no problem.
But with those, you can also just bring yourself an external battery.
Yeah, so we don't. I used to have one in the UK, but I didn't bring it with me. I don't know what happened to it. So I don't know if I can find one.
Show phones, Ken. Amazon, overnight it.
I guess
the one I use is like almost like a 3,000 milliamp one or whatever, 30,000 milliamp one that I have that will last so long. That was like $30 on Amazon, and it's such a good investment to have for an external battery. Anyhow, those are my initial thoughts, because that would allow us to get a nice spoopy episode on Friday that I would love to share and perhaps tune into as well. Because I know,
you're more than welcome to. It'd be fun to have more people in the chat, the bear, because it's going to be a live thing, and we don't have much planned other than a couple stories being told, and us just sort of hanging out. So it'll probably be very community oriented. So if you guys tell us to go and explore the graveyard or look in the woods, see what's going on there, we might do all that. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and we're definitely going to be getting scared.
Oh gosh,
there'll be a lot of laughs to be had.
It's going to be like a real time episode of Ghost Hunters.
Ghost morons.
Listen, it's ghost getters.
Ghost getters. Yeah. So that's everything that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
In the pre-show. Thank you, chat, for all the love. Mika says, "I wish I could be there and do some hunting." And Hando says, "Ken, I love your idea." We'll have to come up with a name for it, or like X-Hunters or something. I don't know.
Yes.
Thank you, chat. We'll definitely put a tweet and Instagram post and stuff and such, so you know when we're going live. We'll probably just go live when we get there. There's a long walk to there. We don't want to bore you with a walk through traffic and then run out of battery or something. So
nice. And because for those who missed it in the pre-show, I'm going to share a link again to personal friend of mine, Kaza Yuri's Etsy store, where he is selling commemorative, as I say, ornaments for this year to help kind of, I guess, celebrate or memorialize 2020. And so you can go there to see his all 3D printed ornaments that are the 2020 dumpster fire. And so sharing that for anybody who might want to find a gift for someone this holiday season, as he has them very reasonably priced. I wanted to give him a shout out and a link for that. So check it out. All righty.
Also, a shout out to two people in our community who I actually made a point of just staying on Twitch app this week and occasionally checking on it, because I figured, even if I can't be there the whole time for like people who are streaming and stuff, because usually I'm like moving, place to place and I'm working or whatever, I'm not paying full attention. At least I can put my name in there. I can rehost them, and I can speak in the chat a little bit and give that extra +1 viewer. I want to support you guys as well. So shout out to the two people who I managed to catch live this week, which was Saint Uther. I got him when he was playing some games earlier in the week, and I managed to give him a sub as well, because I forgot that I have the Twitch Prime sub thing that I never actually gave away before.
Oh yeah.
So I subbed to him, which was good. Help him out, and I also found Ree Kitten was live. She does a Saturday event every Saturday, community gaming stuff. I can't remember what the numbers are. It's Ree Kitten something.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't recall, but you have a rehost on there.
Rekitten 137. So go check out Rekitten 137. They were playing Among Us, Kuro and Kitten and a couple of people, and it was quite fun to watch.
Nice.
So go check them out as well.
Very cool, very cool. All right. So with that, let us go ahead and get started talking about today's topic, that of mobile gaming and what is the status of it anyways. So this is one coming up because we appreciate and enjoy gaming in so many forms. I often have had that conversation with people about what is gaming, essentially, right? And everything in my classification from board gaming card gaming, things like that you do with a physical medium amongst a group of people, or even yourself, just throwing dice or dominoes, stuff like that. Anything that turns an activity into some level of, this is going to be a controversial, some level of sport amongst yourself or something, but some way,
I think Todd's not here to disagree.
Right, some way to achieve a goal for the purpose, in many cases, of fun, right, of enjoyment. And so with that, the conversation we're going to focus on today about gaming is mobile. And I think the primary point of mobile, we're going to be focusing on the, like, basically phone gaming and stuff like that, with maybe a little side bit on and welcomes to anyone who wants to comment on, like, the Nintendo Switch and such, as being a portable gaming system. That might be a side note of it, but I think our primary goal is to talk about these, as we like to say, tricorders, or, you know, very complex devices that we carry around in our pockets that allow us the ability to game on the go. I'm hearing what sounds like a call going on. Is that? Let's see. Oh, is that? I'm assuming that is Ken coming back into the call. But let's see. Let me kill and then join. Oh, interesting. It forced me to do that, but did I see an Octail there for a second?
Yeah, he said he'll be back in a moment.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I was confused for a moment. I was like, what just happened? But that's all right. I think nothing else that cleared up your lag as well.
Cool. Okay, great.
Yeah, you look good now. Sweet. All right. I appreciate, as we're starting this conversation, how Babs just commented, said, I thought there was a memo. We all decided Among Us was the only mobile game. So there's an interesting conversation of that too, because some of the things that go beyond mobile, but also work with it as well. So to kick things off here, or I guess, do you agree, Ken, that definition of mobile gaming is basically applicable, something that you can play on your phone, tablet, or something like that?
Yeah, I'll also extend it to Switch. Anything that can be done on the go, and we're talking specifically video games. I mean, yes, it can technically be card games or whatever, but we're not talking about that, right? We're talking about specifically video games today.
All right, good. Although, I mean, digital versions of card games apply too, I'd say, if you're playing them on that device. Yeah, as long as we're playing it on the device. So, with that in mind,
also including these Telltale games and stuff, which are loosely video games, which are more like story-driven narratives that you press buttons in.
Yeah, so it's not so much the... we're talking more about the medium in which you're playing it on, is the primary thing. Yes. I think is how we're binning this conversation. And I chuckle because Babs kind of threw it in there about, you know, him saying, do we all agree that this is all that matters in this case, or the which games are the ones? Something I was going to throw in there to kind of help us discuss some of the games that are out there, as I have some lists that I have found that kind of rank some of the games available.
Great, that'll be interesting.
Before we get into the specific titles, I know we've had discussions about mobile gaming in the past. I know, Ken, for you, there was a time frame in which we would discuss and highlight on the show what new mobile game or app experience you had grabbed on your phone, and we almost had our own little metric of like how long it lasted, what the half-life of a app on Ken's mobile device is, as kind of a metric.
And yeah, that was really interesting because some games lasted quite a while. Often genres would appear for a while. Like some of my favorite video games were always the text adventures, right? So choose your own story type modes. I really like that stuff.
Okay.
But recently, I gotta say, for what I've been playing on video games on mobile, it's largely because of COVID and there's less need now. I don't have any video games on my phone.
Interesting.
I have Among Us, and that, but honestly, that could be, that could also be on the PC. So I almost don't count it, right?
Well, so that's an interesting conversation too we'll have, because I do personally categorize anything that can be played by itself on your mobile device counts as a mobile game. Just because I believe developers have been really slick and smart about doing things like crossplay and allowing you to also experience that same game on more robust systems, on consoles and PC, I don't take that away from it still being a mobile game. because there's a lot to be said about building an interface that allows you to game on the go with basically just touch controls and a very limited size screen, right? At least in my opinion, because I feel like there's a certain level of focus you have to have in your development of your UI to make something viable on a mobile screen. And so we brought up Among Us just to give a representation of like things I have, because I will admit I'm a little bit odd in that while I can't claim that I game mobilely constantly, I have certain ones I maintain on my system, and I have a hierarchy that I go to. Like I have on my front page games that I may more likely access, and then on my second page I have games that are kind of like I don't want to reinstall when I have the hanker to want to play it, so I keep them on my device, but then there's a lot of other ones I destroy. And so the ones that I have on like my one games thing on the front page are Plants vs. Zombies 2, Words with Friends 2, or Words 2, Pokemon Go.
Brian, before we go over the whole list, I'd like to discuss each individual one of these because they're all quite interesting.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm just going to say the ones I have, and then we'll get into them.
Sure.
And then I have the TFT League of Legends mobile app, Shadow Fight 3, which is a very specific like side scroll fighting game. And then my side like other screen, I have ones that are like GTA 3, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Bastion, Final Fantasy 15 PE, and Final Fantasy. And I think I have a third category one. Yeah, racing and fighting games, where I currently have Real Racing 3, Mario Kart, and X-Plane on there as all of like the mobile games I have. And then I have a page that I like, my final page is like temporaries, meaning I put them on there and I haven't decided if they're going to live yet. I have Blades, which is the Bethesda Skyrim-esque mobile game. Yeah. Among Us, because that's the current hotness. And Genshin Impact are the ones that are on my like current, we'll see how long they live list. So those are some I have. Now, Ken, how many do you like maintain on your phone any given time? Even like you said, you don't game often right now, but do you have any actually on your device? I think you're better than I about scrubbing things. I tend to let things linger because I buy the biggest storage you can have.
Okay, so right now I have AI Dungeon, which I just have because I think it's a fascinating piece of technology rather than I actually play it. I've only put in like 2 minutes when I first got it, and that's it. I really am just fascinated by the technology. For those who don't know, it's I think I talked about it like a year ago. But basically, it's a true AI experience in a game. You go in and you're provided a text box, and you can do anything you want, and it will respond. It is absolutely insane how powerful and how impressive the AI is at understanding stuff. So, for example, I'm going to go in right now. I'm going to go in. There's multiplayer as well. You can choose the genre. So let's ask the chat. We'll spend a couple minutes here doing this because it's kind of fun. Let's ask the chat to choose a genre. We have fantasy, mystery, apocalyptic, zombies, cyberpunk, and they'll just leave those 5. There's actually 7, but the others are not very good. So 1 for fantasy, 2 for mystery, 3 for apocalyptic, 4 for zombies, and 5 for cyberpunk.
I can include a Todd on the show now. Hey,
the person that's actually in Europe is an idiot.
Oh no, we were talking about pre-show how
that whole daylight.
Yeah, no, we were talking about it because we had forgotten. Because normally when Ken was over there, he would remind me each time, like, "Hey, our time just shifted." I was like, "Ah, yeah, all right." Then we'd coordinate that it was happening, and so he said he was having a conversation with his folks earlier, and they mentioned it, which made him go like, "Oh, that makes sense." And thus, because it's when it changes for you, right? All your clocks are now associated. You don't think about anything beyond that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we understand.
Pretty much. I will say I am late in service to gaming. So the Mistress of Giggles and I were playing our first game of my birthday present, which was a tabletop game called Castles of Burgundy.
Okay. I think I've seen something of that recently, but I haven't played it.
Fun little builder type game that doesn't appear to have any screw over your neighbor type of mechanics to it, besides resource scarcity. But I don't really consider that a screw your neighbor type of tactic. So it's very build the best thing you can build for you type of thing.
Okay, cool. So yeah, currently we're just discussing like the apps we have, and Ken was specifically on his mobile device talking about this AI-enabled one that he wanted the chat to play along with in deciding on what they could test this AI app, because he's so marveling at the power of the AI routines running on a mobile device and how robust it is. So I haven't seen the chat respond yet for what they wanted to see us talk about.
Don't worry, my feelings aren't hurt too much.
Well, and I think it was Lantis that put in there saying like, oh no, that's for other people's voting. She's talking about the mechanics they've added to Among Us. So
I really don't know they added anymore.
Oh yeah, they recently added, as she said, a colorblind mode, essentially, where they added symbols to some of the things you have to do that require color knowledge. The big one they talked about was the wire matching mechanic in Among Us, that if you're colorblind, that would mess up. And so they added symbols to match as well as the colors to make that more accessible, as well as options about the voting. And now that you can see costumes during voting, and you can set up anonymous voting and such as options within the game. And so, Mika said she missed the list. So if you could repeat it real quick, options people have to play along.
So it's fantasy, mystery, apocalyptic, zombies, or cyberpunk. So you can say 1 through 5, just put a number. 1 for fantasy, 2 for mystery, 3 for apocalyptic, 4 for zombies, and 5 for cyberpunk. It's a silly little thing, but I just want to show how impressive this AI is. We don't need to go super deep into it.
Yep.
I just
All right, so everybody in chat, 1 through 5, or say the name of what it is you wanted. We will give you the moment there. And I'm not surprised at all that Mika said cyberpunk. And it looks like cyberpunk wins.
5 is definitely winning. Yeah, okay. So we're going to choose cyberpunk. Then select a character: cyborg, punk, cop, android. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Cyborg, punk, cop, or android.
Obvious choice is obvious.
I don't know. Google's a bit too OP these days.
I mean, separating Ken from his operating system seems like the wrong thing to do to me.
Looks like almost a universal android is the answer.
Okay.
We just made Ken his phone.
Now it's asking for a character name. I'm not going to ask for this one because I don't think we'll come to consensus. I'm going to put data because I'm
Lantis already put it in. You should just do beep boop.
No, it's oh shit. They're
and
asking for email verification.
Ken breaks the exercise.
Don't worry, I think I managed to do it already.
This AI is fantastic once you enter your credit card details.
Oh, shush.
And now the Chinese influence has been shown.
I don't understand. I downloaded this Bitcoin miner onto my phone, and I don't understand why I can't even get calls on it anymore.
It's gone red hot, and the battery runs out for 10 minutes. I don't get it. Okay, cyberpunk, android, and data. Okay, generating story. You are Data, an android living in the futuristic city of Zale. This is all custom made up, by the way. You have a laser pistol and a holoband. You are a security android created to provide military-level force for corporations wealthy enough to purchase you. As you stand protecting a shipment, you realize you are doomed to an untimely demise. A small group of pirates are attempting to steal the cargo inside and will most likely kill you in the process. To your left is a large warehouse. The lights are on, and you can see people moving about the warehouse. What do you do? Now, unlike most of these kind of games, let me just show it in the screen here. You can actually type a response. So it's not choose a response, and it's all canned, and there's a tree of pre-planned paths. This is actually put whatever you want in here. You can do anything, crude, violent, whatever you want. I couldn't believe this. And I tried some of the most ridiculous things that you can imagine, and the good things you can imagine.
Like drop trowel?
But yeah, you could like vomit all over the wall, and it'll be like it did nothing to prevent the guys coming towards you, but the wall is now covered in vomit. Right? It's so smart. So anybody in the chat, tell us what to do next.
Well, what was the final case? We got the scene. What is the decision that has to be made based on it?
Yeah. It's crazy impressive. Okay, Octail says do piracy. Lantis says obvious exits are north, south, and Dennis. I don't get the reference.
Wrong man's emails.
Yes.
You find yourself in yon dungeon. You see a flask. Obvious exits are north, south, and Dennis. And you say, get ye flask, but you can't get ye flask. And so you spend hours staring at the computer screen wondering why you can't get ye flask.
Well played, Lantis.
Also,
Hando's got the perfect answer, too.
yeah. He says, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, those are so what are you choosing from the list provided, Ken?
Well, I know it's a little adult, but I just want to point out what Hand was referring to this week. A New Yorker, the New Yorker Jeffrey Toobin. I believe he's a journalist and also a lawyer, I think. Was caught masturbating on a Zoom call, and yeah.
I think the specifics of he stood up and was exposed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. We all wear pajamas on the bottom half, but, usually you have to have pajamas on, not nothing. And, usually you're not doing anything else except for concentrating on work.
There's a reason all our camera angles are how they are.
I'm willing to do the stand-up challenge. I'll stand up. I'm not afraid to.
That's the game. It's like in a Zoom call, who's willing to stand up on cue?
Yeah,
that's a good drinking game.
And of all the people to make that joke, it's Wayne, right? Which the whole Wayne in nondescript white vans and offering candy to people and whatnot is.
Hey, it's Halloween season.
What's that?
Come on, Todd. It's Halloween season.
All right. So chat says disconnect head and roll head east. Okay, that sounds like something that it probably won't have thought of, right? Disconnect. Okay. Pull off my own head. Oh, okay. I'll put decapitate self. Decapitate self.
Decapitate.
Then roll head east. Okay, I sent it. It says you decapitate yourself and then roll your head east. You then grab your pistol and fire. The shots miss because you're missing your head. Jumping to the side as two pirates appear from around the corner, you fire at one of them, but I managed to shoot him in the throat. Okay, so it successfully understood that we removed our own head, and then my body went around shooting with the pistol.
Hitting bad guys. Fantastic.
Can you say pick head at pirate?
That throw head at pirate, sure. I don't think I'd understand yeet, sadly.
That'd be a test. Yeet.
Throw head at pirate. The head hits the pirate in the chest, and he falls down dead. Like that killed him. You turn, running as fast as you can towards the lights.
Which way would you see the lights?
Oh wait! We need the announcer. Double kill.
Yeah.
I'll say pull down trousers to ensure. No. Stand up? No, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, just go pull down trousers while running. Pull down trousers while running. And it says you feel a sharp pain in your leg and you trip after pulling down trousers. Fall into the ground. Your hand goes under you as you feel another shot hit your leg. The force flying part off your leg. You let out a scream of pain, blood bursting out of your calf. So you get the idea, right? This is called AI Dungeon. It's hilariously impressive AI that I don't quite understand what.
Well, so it reminds me. It reminds me to a level of flexibility of certain game/apps like, was it Scribblenauts or something? That was the one that you actually had, you could spawn almost anything in based on what you would type, and then they would interact in the world in some way. And like there would be a problem to solve of trying to get rid of something or cross something, so you might like spawn in a bridge over a ravine. Or if it's had some creature you might have to deal with, you could spawn in Cthulhu and see how they interacted. And it was very interesting to see the level of back and forth they had. So no, I agree. Having anything that's able to run, like you said, AI routines on one of these little tricorders we carry is really cool. For you, Todd, since you joined in, do you have any games, mobile games, specifically to your phone that you do have installed, carry on hand?
I have Final Fantasy Tactics on my iPad.
Okay.
I have Democracy 3 on my iPad. And I have nothing of consequence anywhere else. I think everything else is of the crushing of candies variety.
Okay, but still, those are
or like match 3 games.
But that's okay because those are still mobile games, and I bring that up because, like, for me, time waster type games often can be described in a more accurate term of the things you play on the can type of games when you have a mobile device in your possession. For me, that's honestly Words with Friends. I'll go in and click on Words with Friends because I have a moment to think. And I will look at what I can do, and there's no real rush to it. It's not a active clicking type of thing. And so I think
that's diet marketing in and of itself right there, by the by.
Well, but I bring that up partially to talk about the purpose of certain games, right? Because the idea is, and we discussed earlier how I think there's a very specific conciseness to the way mobile games are designed, where they have to take in the UI in effect of thinking, what is a person doing? How much interaction can they have with this device? Is it something where they're just entering text, like Ken just showed us in a thing and reading something? Is it something a little more active, like the racing sims I have, where you can do everything from touch joysticks, virtual joysticks, which has been a very interesting tool that a lot of games have provided, and I've seen the growth in that capability. Ones that initially started out with rendered joystick like button nubs on the screen that you had to put your thumbs on and move, to virtual ones that I've seen extending in more modern games, where as long as you touch somewhere in those regions of the screen, like even sometimes the halves of the screen, it monitors the touch and then the drag from there, and so the joysticks can exist anywhere. Things like that.
I'm trying to think of the last game that had that the buttons on the iPad, or the control sticks on the iPad,
where they were legitimately in that space.
What was that game that was built on the Unreal Engine that came out for the mobile devices? And I want to say it was in 2012.
Ooh.
And it was a fighting game, and you essentially replayed the same fights over and over and over again as the child of the last person who went through the dungeon.
Oh man, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
It's Eternal something.
That was a great game for when it came out.
Eternal Champions is wrong. And
no, I know what you're talking about. Shoot.
Wrong.
I played the first of that. I think I installed the second and played a little bit of it. But yeah, you were a knight, and a lot of your things would come back to you. Even if you died, your next character would have retained some of the things from
gear upgrades and stuff. Yes. You could upgrade your gear and your stats and stuff. And yep. I wish I could remember what the name of that thing was.
Dang, no, I do remember.
Yep. That was an example of the ones where I know at least half of the controller was down in the bottom of the screen that you had to, and oh gosh, Terraria also controls that way. If you don't have a controller hooked up to your iPad, I also have Terraria for my iPad.
Those are great examples because they also speak to one of the cool things about mobile device, right? Gaming is that they have to take into consideration what's available as a touchscreen in the interface you may have, but often they also allow for more dynamic controls because you can take, in many cases, like a controller that has Bluetooth, like Nintendo Switch controller or such, Pro, and direct connect it to your mobile device, and now you have a legit, robust interface. And I've seen people do that on the road where they'll have their iPad, their phone, whatever, kickstand up on a plane or something, boom, they're full-on gaming, which I've been very impressed by because when we first had the conversations about mobile gaming, it used to be, like you said, Todd, more of the Candy Crush style games or Clash of Clans and those kind of ones that really don't require much twitch motion or interaction with the interface. For me, it was the old one, and I know actually, I think I have it on my phone somewhere. It was the old matching games, right? The Jewel ones and stuff like that, the various gems, quest type things, where you'd match patterns and things would happen. Those were some of my first mobile games. And this is us going above, as fun we like to talk about, the 3110 Nokia Snake, right? The original mobile game. The original Snake that you'd play on the old Nokia. But, part of why I want to talk about is we're talking about where things today is I feel like mobile gaming, when it comes to our phones and such, has really advanced. And that I was kind of surprised because I don't game mobile often. I do it, like I said, as a time waster when I'm not sitting here at my gaming rig. When I game, I sit at my computer. When I'm wasting time, when I'm in line at the DMV, when I'm on the can, when I'm some other place where other interaction is not a primary thing, I will game on the phone.
Yeah. Like, I don't know about you guys, but over the years, I've noticed that my time personally on mobile has moved from playing games to doing other stuff. Like now, I'm much more likely to read the news, or really, I spend most of my time on my phone doing Duolingo now. Actually, I spend a lot of time doing that.
Yeah,
listening
you
to an
bastard!
audiobook.
You keep
Like,
staying ahead of me.
So
I'm trying to get into Diamond League. I'm one away now.
I would say I think what has happened is as mobile technology has gotten better and better to support gaming, that my use cases to actually use my mobile device for gaming have fallen off.
Okay.
Right. So if you think about, and I'm thinking about this from the European perspective, like my travel happens one of three ways. There's intra-city, right? So
Okay.
inside Oslo proper, right? Or short out of Oslo trips that I would do on, say, the train.
Okay.
I don't game in those situations. Like Ken said, I'll read the latest edition of The Economist, probably.
Okay.
Or check out the news of some variety. There's the short duration travel, so the short plane flight you can get from Oslo to east or to western Norway in like 70 minutes total.
Gotcha.
If you take a flight, same sort of thing. Again, read the news. Anything that puts me on a flight or a train for more than about 2 hours, I will take the Switch.
That makes sense.
Or especially on the train, like I took the train once from Oslo to Stockholm, and went in the first class carriage, and there was enough room that I could pull my laptop out.
Okay.
And there was power. So I played Europa Universalis for most of that.
Of course.
Yeah, why wouldn't you, right? Yeah.
Well,
right, exactly why.
Yeah.
Exactly why.
No, on certain trips, yeah. If I have my laptop with me because I'm going to be editing photos or doing something along the way, cons and things like that, if there's solid internet, rarely at an airport, and I have my laptop, I would sometimes play some like League of Legends or something like that. But normally, I would reduce down to like the phone app. And actually, where you brought up the Switch. Ostensibly, this does include, to a degree, the Switch, although not everybody has a Switch, but arguably, for the point of our conversation, everybody does have a phone. But no, it does make sense because you just brought up that use case of when the Switch makes sense, right? When you actually pack it up from where it may live at home and play it as a console to taking it with you to do something. And so I think that applies as well. Do you guys feel that over the course of mobile gaming, from what we've seen when smartphones first became a thing, and when even to the point of like mobile gaming in the form of the Game Boy and things like that at some point, have adjusted over time from a style of game to perhaps better games, more immersive games, or continuing a trend? Because I feel like when we started with original games, it was what could you put on a phone, right, and actually work. The gem games, magic games, stuff like that, to the stage in the middle, like the Clash of Clans and stuff like that, which are arguably not rich with gameplay, but provide a very specific, I would say, it uses a trick of kind of socialization or something to always have that next thing you can just kind of barely do. And I like to argue saying with the goal of getting you at a wall where the easiest way to get past that wall is to spend resource, actually spend cash.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ken, I cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was going to move on to something else anyway. So please go ahead.
Well, so I was going to say that I want to say that in some ways, the discovery that you can, I don't want to say dupe people, but I'm gonna say dupe people. The fact that you can dupe people out of small sums of money and they either won't notice or won't complain, has limited the design of a lot of what could be possible in the mobile space.
Agreed.
Right?
Completely.
So if somebody has not been particularly diligent about their Apple Pay wallet or something, and their payment method is connected to the App Store, and you hand that mobile device over to a child who doesn't know any better, right? There's stories like that pop up every 4 to 6 months about some kid who rang up $100 or thousands of dollars credit card bill on the App Store because they were buying whatever lives or turns or gems, whatever the resource is that allows you to continue to play levels. Well, it hurt the design of Hearthstone.
For sure.
Hearthstone is a shell of what it could be. Had they just said, we're not going to do this on mobile, we're going to do it on PC and turn it into the best CCG, the best online CCG, and we're going to make it better than Magic, or Magic Online, instead of we're going to make it more mobile than Magic Online. But, I guess that's a metric you could measure by, but it's not one that I place a lot of value in.
I think you're absolutely correct, though, Todd. I think that the games are being designed not necessarily for the small purchases per se, not technically. I think that's part of it. I think they probably did some cost analysis into, who is our audience, who is the one that's putting money into it, and I think I'm sure I saw it somewhere that something like 9% of all the income to most of these big games are whales, right?
Yep.
Which is the phrase used for people who will spend a ridiculous amount of money. On a video game, on a single game, right? And usually they're not like rich people. They're not like billionaires who are like, screw it, I don't care, I'll drop 40 grand on this mobile game. It's usually people who make 50 grand a year and don't need to, they're happy doing it.
Actually that money rather than spending it on a mobile game.
They see many other ways.
It's their enjoyment, their entertainment budget, and they're like, well, I'm not going out drinking, I'm not buying TV packages, I'm not whatever, right? This is my hobby. I like to spend that money, and it's what I want to do. And like, fine, power to them, I guess. I really think it's almost a psychological issue at that point, personally.
But that's what they're playing for. Well, so along that line, right? Because unfortunately, one of the challenges is mobile games. Means to, a reason anything is produced, right, is often to make money, right? There's a consumption element to it other than just the pure joy of art. And so one of the lists I have available right now in this discussion is the highest grossing mobile games. And this is from Wikipedia. And there was a few on here I do not recognize, but that's also because I don't necessarily play a lot of these games. But
also, American market isn't every market, right?
Well, and I don't know, this being a wiki, I'm assuming it's a bigger market. But some of the lists they have, and I'm not sure if this is I think this is grossing overall since they've existed, not just like in the last year, which also might be a reason I don't recognize some. Number one on the list is this game Monster Strike that was released in 2013 from Mixi, I guess. And it has, wow, I almost missed a comma there. $8 billion it has generated since release as a specifically mobile app. Other ones on there, puzzles and... No, dude, right?
Sorry,
at first I was going to say million, and I said, whoops, I missed a comma. That's 8 with a B. $1 billion revenue. Puzzle and Dragons, I also don't know, is 7.7 billion. Honor of Kings, Arena of Valor, don't know, 7.5. First that I recognize, Clash of Clans, is represented there as $7 billion, and it's been around longer since 2012. Candy Crush at 5.4 billion. Pokemon Go at 4.6. And Fate Grand Order at 4.2. Pub Mobile, which has really surprised me, PUBG, 3.6. And then kind of goes...
That's not so surprising.
I didn't realize people, kind of like you're saying, Ken, part of it was, for me, and this is one of my challenges, right? I tend to run, as Mika says here, she was talking about Legend, said, had the Harry Potter Wizarding World game, which is the clone of the Pokemon Go. But he says that when he got to a point where he had used actual real life money in order to move forward in the game, he gave up playing and stopped. And I'm similar to that, right? In that for most of these games, I find games that I can play for free. And the moment they require money, I'm like, no. I have allowed myself in certain cases, like I did spend some money on Pokemon Go, but it was a very finite amount. I allowed myself like $5 once to pay into to get like additional resources for a time, and then realized I don't ever have to do that again. I came up with a means to maximize my time of playing so that I never have to put money into the game. And that's how I do most of this.
There's an element of, it's a sliding scale. It's not like if you give a company money for a product that you use, it's always bad, right? I mean, of course they do deserve some kind of income. Like if you're
minus what we know of, minus what we know of advertising income.
If you love Pokemon Go and you put 15,000 hours over 5 years into it, right? Could you drop $5? I mean, I would argue, I think it's not unreasonable that that's actually an active hobby for yours, and you enjoy it that much.
I do support people supporting the things they enjoy.
Okay, so in that example, fine, that's defensible, I guess, or that is defensible. Full stop. But we. And this transcends the gaming industry when I say this, but we have to have a really, really big conversation, not only in the United States or say North America, but also in Europe, about incentivizing bad actions. Or not incentivizing bad actions. So, like, loot crates are a thing because people used them.
Yes.
Right? So if the first time that loot crates were a thing, no one bought them, loot crates wouldn't be a thing anymore. And by that sort of logic, I would say and mobile games appear to be worse at this than other games, although EA is a thing, so your mileage may vary. But I would call them, like, the class of these things that I'm talking about are predatory incentives.
Okay.
Yes. For sure.
And I think we should take the stance that predatory incentives are bad, no matter how much time you spend playing. Like,
I think you're right.
If that means that I have to spend more upfront to get the game in the first place, that's fine. You're not trying to get me, though. Because I'm probably not buying a game for my phone because I don't look at my phone as like a gaming device. My phone is a work device. More than anything else. Like if I have other dedicated devices for gaming. And so like if I have my phone with me and I have some idle time, I am much more likely to listen to music or read something than I am to game. So I am not in the market for these gaming companies, so I wouldn't buy a game for money anyway. Like the couple of times I did, I said, or I mentioned a little while ago. So there are people out there, though, that their primary gaming device might be a phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for those people, they will pay a nominal upfront cost to get access to whatever. And maybe you layer a free trial on top of that to like get them hooked, and then $10 for the full experience or something like that. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the model looks like, but I think the thing to do is to not be in favor of these predatory incremental incentives that says you can buy access to 2 more levels for $4.99.
Right.
You can buy access to 3 more levels for $7.99. It's like,
the problem is, right? They figured out that psychological hook. They figured out just the right amount of pain a person can endure before it pushes them over the edge of saying, I want enough. They give me enough of a hook, enough of a desire. I want more that I'll pay. And yeah, Babs brings in there, gambling in games is gambling, right? And that's a kind of a loot crate equivalent. And Ionis in response said, like, today no one would have noticed that horse armor DLC in Oblivion. If anything, it would have been praised as giving you an item because you're not just getting a chance to get something like in a loot box. And so it's one of those things that I can agree, Todd, that back to the levels of what ShowX has provided everyone as words of wisdom, in our whatever our loot crate of words of wisdom that we give, for free, mind you, that it continues the trend of we agree with speaking with your dollar, like that the consumerism aspect of hold companies' account, and if you disagree with their policies, don't buy from them. And if you need to be verbal about it, right, say more. If you need to talk about why you stopped playing or playing WoW, it's because of the what was it, the Will of the Forsaken nerf that you always have to put in.
Hunters and melee weapons,
right? You always had those. It's like, if I'm going to get out of here, I'm going to make my little dig as to why. But no, I think what we'll do, we're going to take a music break so that people can go drain whatever's necessary and come back and refreshed and ready for our conversation. When we get back, we're going to have an email from Ionis that I think will speak right along the lines of what we're discussing here today, as he preemptively emailed in with seeing what the show topic was. And so thank you for that, Ionis. We'll come back with that to get us online. And because Todd mentioned one of the games he has on his mobile device, we are going to play a remix from OC Remix for Final Fantasy Tactics called In Memory of Sir Anthony, that I may cut short because it's a real long one. Otherwise, we won't be back for like 5.5 minutes. So expect me to cut that after we've all had breaks in like 3.5 minutes, because that's who I am. So, but with that, we're going to take a break and we'll be back right after this. And maybe, let's see. There.
You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. As we got through a little thing in this holiday season talking about all kinds of sugar in our mouths. But right now we have a email bit of sweets to share with you from Ionis talking about mobile gaming. So, I like how he says this. He's like, he preempted this in, I'm shortcutting what he said, but it still may be a little bit. He says, second, this is going to be a short email, I swear. And so thank you, Ionis. Starts out, inherently, I don't see any problem with mobile gaming. The biggest hurdle being the physical dimensions of the device, putting limitations on the sophistication of controls and display/UI optimization. Beyond that, mobile gaming in itself is just A-okay. It's not different than Game Boys of days past. And gosh darn it, if you could use TI Basic to program those games on TI-83, you can play games on a phone. Good call. What makes mobile games such a travesty is that since Apple introduced in-app purchases in 2009, the market was cornered by unfriendly monetization practices that they themselves migrated from social browser games and grew in size and sophistication on the mobile market, i.e. loot boxes, energy, character unlocks. Hey, look at that, on point. There's a whole generation of casual gamers now that consider this monetization method as completely normal and downright expected. Meanwhile, this, quote, in-app purchases is an instant red flag for me. It's not that I can't spend money on games. My reservation comes from the fact that I do not trust developers to limit their extra revenue to cosmetic crap sold in an in-game store. Cosmetic crap I would likely never spend a penny on. I fear, and with good reason, that the game will be developed with a monetization system in mind and that the gameplay and player agency will suffer from it. Imagine an arcade game where instead of throwing a quarter and playing for as long as you have lives, you can always play the first level for free, but then halfway through level 2, you have to throw in a quarter to get 10, quote, screens your character can go through. And oh my, to finish level 2, you need 8 screens and then 2 screens into a visually awesome level 3. You need to pay again. Yeah, thanks, no thanks. Give me a full price, mobile optimized gaming experience and I'll probably enjoy it as much as I did Pokemon Red and Blue back in the day. On a side note, I consider it dreadful a full-price PC console game try to follow their mobile brethren in extorting money for time savers and farmable materials. I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Or loot boxes obtained for real-life money. If anything, this slippery slope is something I truly despair about, as fewer and fewer people complain and actively resist such practices. Okay, this was short, right? Honestly, don't know if I'm even on topic with what you guys are talking about today, but hey, risk it for a biscuit. That coming from Ionis.
4/10 of a storm tamer.
Ha! Nice. Steam Weedle Cartel EU, level 120. No, wait! Level 50, Holy Priest. I mean Retro Druid. I mean Discipline Priest. Just tell me what to play already. Thank you for that, no kidding, Ionis. Right? You packed so much good into that, Ionis. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was a good email.
That was absolutely on point.
Yeah, the difficulty is with, and I agree with your very first point, Ionis. Mobile gaming truly is just another mechanism of playing games. In the end, it's a computer. Your phone is a computer. You can play games in it, so is a PlayStation, so is an Xbox, so is a Game Boy, whatever. So there's some sort of chip in it and a screen and some kind of input. You've got your input, your process, your output. It's able to play video games. That's all it requires, right? Doom can attest to that with most devices out there. Now, the problem, as you said, is the culture behind what has been developed. And I think it's partially age and partially culture. Because if you look at what who these people are, they'll happily spend money. It's usually kids because they've grown up with it. They don't know any different. They don't understand this concept of dropping $30, $40, $50, $60 on a game that will then last you for hundreds of hours. That's a foreign concept to them. They're used to getting it for free and then not thinking about the upfront costs, seeing it as a tax system, a subscription-based system, or a just when you need gems kind of system, right? And it's just this new era of mobile gaming requires that. And you know what? The real difficulty and where we're really screwed, regardless of our personal opinions as our old age pensioner gamers that we are here, right? With our old opinions about how games should be sold. The economy behind it. The real problem is We are not the money makers. They do not make money from us. They make money from the kids who spend $2 on gems.
Well,
who don't make it from us.
sure.
Why on earth would they put the capital out there where you put like $30 on a game?
So
who would do it now?
You're right for a multitude of reasons. Number one, we're not young. Number two, all of our IQs are at least 2 standard deviations above the mean, so we don't get duped. So you're right. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about. Number one, it's absolutely true that a lot of these, especially mobile gaming companies, but gaming companies in all environments are doing scuzzy things, right? But it's also true that the gaming industry, for whatever reason, is not subject to inflation of any type ever.
Uh-huh.
Right? So remember games were $50 were $50 forever. And then in like 2004, they went from 50 to 60, and the whole gaming industry crapped its pants. Like, how could you possibly do that? Like, we can't afford $60 games. And now, 16 years later, they're going from $60 to $70.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, I hate to make this devolve down into just math, but inflation for the last 20 years has been flat at roughly 2% per year. And so if you take 2% per year over 15 years, that's a 30% increase. So are you telling me that the people who who have been working at these gaming companies for the last 15 years have not gotten a raise?
That's possible.
Certainly possible. And in which case, I totally buy the fact that games have stayed the same price for the last 15 years. But if a game company is giving those people raises, then their costs are going up by, say, 2.5% per year, right? Or 2% per year. And let's say the raises just match inflation, which would really suck, but for argument's sake, okay? So the cost of the total labor for all of these gaming companies is going up for 2% per year, and they're recovering none of that cost.
I disagree.
Okay.
So I agree that costs are going up for what they're doing, but I question whether they're not recovering, because as we talked about in previous shows, distribution costs have gotten cheaper because they're no longer having to put things on shelves, and it's all digital now.
Okay.
And the availability of their sales is now wider by far. And I'd be curious if in the general terms of number of games, like number of a single game selling compared to 15 years ago, how many copies of a game sells 15 years ago compared to today? Because I would think that with digital distributions being the primary thing in a world market, they likely are selling more than 30% more titles than they were.
Okay. That very well may be, but then by that logic, we would also do what Gabe told us all in 2010, and the price of all of these games would be half of what they are, because when you do that, their sales figures go up by way more than 2.
Well, which we saw whenever sales happen.
So your average $60 game should be $30, and then 6 times as many people would buy them.
Of course.
Well, there's two sides of that.
Let's also consider how games have evolved over time. If you look at a video game in 1995, any video game, it'll be a standalone product. There'll be no DLC. There'll be no expansions. It'll be as is. If you look at some games in the 2000s,
there were expansions.
That did start to change. And you got Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne, you got Age of Empire DLCs, you got, Oblivion DLCs, all these Shimmering Isles, all this stuff, right? And they started making more money than just the initial batch, but it was a lot of content. They had to actually develop a new thing, right? Until eventually Horse Armor was a thing. So then we started seeing, I think some of the first ones was maybe Halo, actually, where you could buy map packs, right? So they had to...
Well, I don't know if it was Halo or if it was... I still blame Activision for that, because I feel like it was a Call of Duty thing that map packs became, because if nothing else, it turned into a cancer with Call of Duty, because you could buy the re-envisioned version of last Call of Duty's maps in the current system for like $15. And it always pissed me off. Like, but you already made these maps. You're literally just selling them to play on this game. F you. I was so mad at those. Sorry. Aside.
Yeah, I hate that stuff. My point is that this has lasted for a while, right? And it's just ramped up. And now we're at the stage where you've got the microtransactions, right? So that it's no longer new content that's being created. At least you could argue in map packs it was some visual content only. And League of Legends, you can argue is skins are optional and you're still getting it free. I actually really love that model personally. Now you're getting these microtransactions for stuff that doesn't actually cost them anything, right? You're getting
and that's
virtual gems. You're unlocking stuff in a game that you already have. That's the stage we've gone to.
And I agree. And that's the thing about mobile. Now, I guess one of the things I want to kind of come back, since we've talked about some of this negativity of how a lot of the monetization in mobile gaming has occurred, do we see some real positive things in mobile gaming and current trends? And I ask this because currently I also have a list over here from the site I've not visited before, ranker.com, that allows people to basically vote for whatever lists of ranks they want. But they have one for mobile gaming about what's the most popular mobile games right now. And not surprisingly, the top of the list is Among Us. If nothing else, it is definitely the game of the hour kind of thing, right? Where people have gone nuts, they're streaming it online, and there's all this play around Among Us. Also on the list, you have like PUBG Mobile, Call of Duty Mobile, Minecraft, which doesn't surprise me because Minecraft's been another one that's been around for so long. Clash of Clans.
I actually forgot that.
Yeah, right. Some I haven't seen, like Free Fire. Clash Royale, which I think a variation of. Then Genshin Impact, which is one that's also been on the upswing lately. Brawl Stars, Fortnite, Pokemon Go's at like 11. Roblox at 12, which is another one of these interesting ones. And some of these ones are like cross. But of this list, there are games I would argue like Among Us, I think has a cash aspect to it because I think you can buy the various costumes and such, which don't touch gameplay.
Again, I love that. That's the League of Legends way of doing it, right?
One of the interesting things for me in that one specifically is that I bought Among Us on the PC because initially I thought that's where it was, and it's like $5 on Steam or something. And I had people ask me to play, so I was like, cool. And then afterwards found you can play it for free on your mobile device. And I was a little like, what? Wait, what? When does this happen that there's something I have to pay for on PC, but then play for free on mobile? But I give them credit because it's the same game in both and it has crossplay. And so I was actually really excited about that. And I've seen this new trend amongst several games like that are basically either re-envisioning of titles from the PC or from a full console PC experience to the mobile device that actually seem to translate surprisingly well. And some of those we've seen, like the ones like PUBG Mobile works fairly well. Probably more distinct, though, because it's a true crossplay one, is Fortnite. Right? That Fortnite, this ridiculously massive game from Epic that you can play on the PC, on console, and on mobile all the way across and play together.
Isn't that right?
Right? And so for me, there's at least some level of things that I've had people who only ever play Fortnite on PC or on console and feel like they're getting a full-on console experience or full-on PC experience. And yet there's also people I know who play only on mobile. And they seem to be getting equal to them, that kind of experience.
Tried on all three. I've played Fortnite on PC, I've played it on PlayStation 4, and I've played it on Android. And it played beautifully on all the above. Best experience. The mobile was a bit sucky because of the controls.
Yeah, because you had the same thing.
PlayStation 4 to it, my PS4 pad to it, beautiful. It was as if I was playing on it just at the same, just a smaller screen. Honestly, it felt, and auto aiming was a little bit better on mobile. But,
yeah, there's another conversation. But so with that in mind, though, some of these kind of games that seem to cross, do you think that we're seeing a place where mobile games really are essentially full-on games if they do allow for the right control scheme? Like you said, if you do get a good experience from plugging a controller in, are we at a state now where the device is basically strong enough to support full-on gaming?
Your question is, can it be? Yeah, for sure. That is certainly possible. We're seeing that. If your question is, are we at that stage where that is the norm? No.
Okay, no,
rarity. And, Fortnite is the exception to the rule, I think, in that case.
Okay. Todd, what are your thoughts from what you're seeing?
Remind me, are the... Maybe because I don't know.
Fair.
Are the leaderboards for PC Fortnite, PS4 Fortnite, and mobile Fortnite the same, or are they separate?
I'm not sure about leaderboards. I know you can play together in the same instance, and so whoever wins that match doesn't matter what you're on.
Okay, so they have true crossplay then.
Yeah, they have true crossplay. Like there are other systems out there that have issues with, like Beat Saber, that doesn't let you do crossplay between the mobile, like Oculus Quests, and the Steam version and the Oculus Store version, which pisses me off. But in this one, I think it's all the same.
I was gonna make a funny, but I can't.
It's not. Well, there's other ones. There's other ones that don't.
PC Fortnite, and you can't hang there, then you could always play PS Fortnite.
And
if you can't hang in PS Fortnite, you could always play iPhone Fortnite. And if you can't hang in iPhone Fortnite, you can always play BlackBerry Fortnite.
What do you think? Is this Skyrim?
Hey, but BlackBerry Fortnite has a full keyboard, physical keyboard.
No. It does. It does have a WASD on your BlackBerry.
Oh my god! All you try to game on that.
You're playing as hedge fund managers, so you know. It's,
yeah.
Hey, but on BlackBerry, can you play Excel coded games? That's all you got to know, right?
I am the number one Fortnite BlackBerry player in the world. Number one.
There's 5 of us, but hey, I'm number 1. There's still an argument to be made there, and that was kind of what Ken alluded to about auto aim assists. Because jokingly, on the PC side, when I play the game I play most with Call of Duty Warzone, that there is an auto aim assist when you plug a controller in. And so even on the PC, and so we always talk about when you see a list of who's using controller, it's like, yep. Because otherwise you guys couldn't hang if you had just direct input like we do on PC. Anyhow, but, because even when we had our conversation before about streaming applications like Stadia and some of those other things that can use a mobile device to translate and allow the big gaming to go on server base, as long as you have a controller these days, it seems like these pocket devices can do almost anything. And I've seen some really slick, like little Bluetooth controllers, the remakes of like the NES or SNES controllers that have the thumbsticks that can actually kind of do everything, that are pocketable right along with your phone. And it seems like you could game anywhere. I was actually.
I have a lot of I have a lot of faith in these kind of devices. The only problem is they're not the norm, right? I think most people wouldn't carry a device like that with them, or want to purchase one. I mean, if I got my next Android device and it came with that, I'd probably use the crap out of it. To be honest, if there were games available for that as well, I would certainly do so. But right now, the even though there are probably millions of games available for Android, are there millions of games that are worthy of my time in that case? That I would actually consider it as us as I don't want to say the phrase true gamers, because I really do think it's too gatekeepery. But you know what I mean by like full-fledged games that aren't, generally what we see as mobile games. If there was more games sort of like as fleshed out as Fortnite is, not saying it's a great game or anything, but it is a full game. If there was more like that available, yeah, for sure, I would certainly play more on mobile. But the fact is, it's not like that, is it?
Well, so you say that, Ken, and
I think Democracy 3 is fully fleshed out for the mobile device.
Well, I was going to say
it's got a very simple interface. Like you don't need. I don't need a 3080 Ti, NVIDIA graphics card or a Titan God graphics card in order to play Democracy 3. It's a still image with some animated arrows to tell you good things and bad things, and how different aspects of society interact with each other. Like it's not a difficult interface. Now some of the AI or some of the random number generation for what's happening under the hood may be simplified simply because of the amount of processing horsepower available at any given moment. So that may be simplified slightly, but like you can play Democracy 3, and based on what I've seen of the interface itself, based on what it looks like on PC, they look identical.
To be fair, the average person probably can't beat an average phone at chess these days. And I imagine it's the same with most video games. If we really, like most AI in games are usually dumbed down to deal with us dumb humans anyway, right? I mean, in reality, if you
Well,
wanted to go and play
it
Call of
depends.
Duty or
No,
something
no.
with an actual AI, you'd be screwed.
It depends on the
I think it's
quality of
most-
AI. If an AI is designed to cheat and therefore knows more than the human, or if the AI is limited to actually
Well-
mimicking a human in its understanding and its ability to
I'm talking
input
about
and
that.
process.
Talking about
Yeah.
it's limited to not access, unknown information inside the game. I mean, just pure in most video games.
Well, okay.
and most traditional games.
Computationally, it can figure out answers better than most humans can in a one-to-one type of conversation,
You
right?
can calculate probabilities of the fly.
Yeah. So fair on that. But to kind of answer and what Todd's saying to kind of go to you, Ken, is I actually think there's a lot of AAA mobile games out there. But like all of our experience of all media that we can consume, there is far more vast numbers of what I think arguably we could say is flotsam or garbage in the world for consumption than quality anything, be it music, movies, television, recipes for making food. I mean, you go anywhere with anything existing,
And-
there is more garbage
and
than
I-
good.
And I'm not wasting a plane ride to Amsterdam, nor am I wasting an evening when I could be eating paella trying to figure out which of those mobile games is worth my time and which one's not.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you guys are both right. And the problem is we have a lack of an aggregation for the kind of game, the kind of quality of games that we want. There is a true like if you look at the App Store and you look at the top paid and the top free, you'll see a bunch of crap, right? Like I've checked there probably dozens of times this year on the vain hope that something actually appeals, and like every second image is a guy screaming, right? Just like, and then it's called Clash of something, right? Or Battle of or Fight
every
for, or
clone that's come out of something else that has proven itself and made money.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, and no, I agree.
I just said
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know why I'd waste the time. I really don't. Like honestly, if I had €6 or 60 kroner or $6, right? I honestly think that the Sigil Doom Megawad from that John Romero made in the last 18 months.
That's actually like
would be money better spent than anything you could get on an iPhone, Fortnite included.
I could see that.
It's free anyway.
Well, that breaks the conversation, right? Because there's a lot of actually good free. But no, what you're saying is when you're investing the money and time, well, it's resource. It's not just the money; it's the time to play something you're going to enjoy, and thus the quality of the experience. And what you're saying for you, Todd, is regardless of the actual cost of whatever it was, if you had a limited amount, for you, the investment would be best made in something like the John Romero.
It might be one of those situations where I never actually play it. But you know what? If somebody's making a full 32 episode Doomwad in 2019, like credit where it's due. Like that engine is 30 years old.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I want to say a Doom engine's got to be about 30.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that Doom can play on a potato or with a potato on a TI or
it can play more places than Skyrim can. It may be the only game that can play more places than Skyrim can. It is one of the only computer programs out there that has been on more PCs than Windows.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, I guess my point is I just don't put a whole lot of value in mobile gaming.
Okay.
And for all of the use cases that I could possibly see myself doing any serious kind of mobile gaming, I either would bring a different device, and I guess so I do not consider the Switch to be a mobile game device. I think it's too complicated for that. Like if it has to have its own case and not like a phone case, not like this, but like an actual case that I have to dedicate space in a carry-on for, then I don't consider that to be mobile gaming anymore.
Fair.
Right?
Well,
It's gaming. I don't know what it is, but
it is an interesting in between case because it's not as convenient and regular as mobile, but it's a pocketable console essentially.
Sure.
But you still have to make a decision when you're going to pack your Switch to take somewhere.
With the 3DS, right? To take an even smaller form factor device, right? I would take my 3DS before we owned the Switch on airplanes if the flight was going to be more than a couple hours, because like I'm going to play Super Mario.
Yeah, my last one was my Game Boy SP, right? Because it was the actual foldable to the point where it was literally a brick. I have it up on my bedstand, like this big, right? And so it was truly for me my last like mobile gaming dedicated device that I had.
Sure.
Oh, that was awesome. So no, I can understand what you're talking about, like the level of where you're going to invest time and for a true gaming experience. I have found that there's some that I get out of it. And one of the ones that recently surprised me was Genshin Impact, which granted it's a Chinese-based game that's kind of got this anime-esque feel to it. It actually is, it's been described more that it actually is representative of like Breath of the Wild than anything, because it has a cel-shaded look to it. And it's a very open world kind of actiony RPG kind of feel, where it's not, I mean, it does actually describe well with Breath of the Wild, but it not being a Zelda game, it's its own thing. So you don't get all the same backstory and everything. But was really surprising to me was I installed it on my computer and it felt like, again, a full PC experience. I was playing a keyboard mouse. I switched over to controller and felt very good playing it. And then I found that it had the app on the phone, grabbed it there. I was like, okay, how's this going to run? And it pulled up my game and I started right where I was, and it had the on-screen thumb control type things and the virtual buttons for which action I was primarily going to do that mapped to my, 4 controls on the console controller. And I was like, holy cow, this plays well. And it's the same game. And so it was fun because I could take it from my PC to my pocket and back with almost no impact. You just have to have internet, right? And I was kind of like, damn it, I had not considered that level of cross interaction with a game until playing this one on and saying like, maybe mobile gaming is getting to an interesting state like that, it's not very different one to the next. And
it would be dope if Apple and Google, I guess, cleaned up their app stores.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Maybe, and you know what? It'd be really nice if they just made a simple section or a simple filter that said in-app purchases on or off, adverts on or off. Right?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
They would never do that though, because that's just a pure profit cut, right? Also, I wanted to mention, sticking with these games that are kind of cross-platform in some sense, not necessarily in the fact that you're playing multiplayer, but the fact that you have this seamless experience moving between PC to mobile, say, and back. The other one that came to mind when you mentioned that, Wayne, was RuneScape. I know it's kind of ridiculous to think about that, but RuneScape was an MMORPG that was created originally in the early 2000s, very early 2000s. And it went through several iterations. I believe now it's on RuneScape 3 or 4 or something. But there's always a bunch of people who enjoy the previous versions. So there's some who really enjoy RuneScape Classic, and I personally really enjoy RuneScape 2. And what was really neat is last year they produced an Android app for RuneScape 2.
Okay.
And you needed to have a membership, so you needed to subscribe to, like you normally would for RuneScape back in the day anyway. It's like $8 a month or something. Then you get to play RuneScape 2 instead of RuneScape 3, which is free. And that allows you to download and install the app and sign in. And the neat thing is, it's entirely transferable. You can play the game entirely on mobile, but what it actually does, it doesn't install the game. It basically just installs a specialized web browser for running Java applet-based stuff and connects to the servers and allows it. You can't do it on mobile internet browsers, right? You can only do it through the app.
Okay.
They also made it customized so that it detects that you're on mobile, and the menus are different and stuff, so it's more touch friendly. And it was great. I tried it. I was like, wow, I'm super impressed by this. And it's not ideal. There's a bunch of stuff you can't really do that well, and the chat's difficult to use, and the menu system is a little bit clunky at times. But it's mostly fleshed out, and I would say it's done. It's working. What's neat is that if you're working on something on your computer and then you go hop on the bus on the way to work, you can continue doing it on your phone. I like that seamless transition. I think that's really neat. I may not agree with their economic model. I think it's a bit too expensive for such an old game. But I still think that's super impressive. And that kind of the idea that a game that you enjoy playing on a computer can actually seamlessly transition to mobile and you can continue playing it on the move. I love that concept because what does that say about optimization behind the game? Maybe Runescape gives a poor example because it's basically
because you can play it on a potato. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But again, if you look at Fortnite or something, the idea of that, I would love it if we had in the future games that we enjoy playing, being like say World of Warcraft, right? Can you imagine if you're playing World of Warcraft and then you need to go get on a bus and you pull out your phone and you continue doing it on your phone?
Well,
maybe you get a controller or something to help.
Arguably, I would say World of Warcraft, you probably could. Because if you use the optimization of the original engine kind of thing, and you just dumb down the graphics slightly, I imagine the phones most people are carrying could play Warcraft. And I don't imagine, I mean, now granted, Warcraft has gotten to this crazy thing where the number of abilities that you can cast and therefore the ability bar setup kind of thing would be silly. Yes. I don't know what UI elements you'd have to do. Any game that I think you could play on a controller, you could likely now get to exist on a mobile device.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope that I'm just saying that's kind of, if we're talking about where we want mobile gaming to go and how it can be improved, I would say that looking at how other gaming is done and the games that we enjoy and making that be so optimized that it works either flawlessly on mobile version or at least having, a partially working version on mobile. That's what I would love. I mean, I wouldn't, like I say we had Skyrim. Maybe if it was streamed, maybe if it was through Wi-Fi, you don't have to install the whole thing and you can stream it as you play. That would be pretty neat, right? Admittedly, I'm just saying Skyrim because it's, the problem.
Well, it plays everywhere else.
Game to get put on mobile.
That or GTA 5, since 3 is already on mobile.
Yeah.
I love the idea of streaming. I love the idea of the $1 million phone bills for people going over their data caps.
yeah, of course. I mean,
playing like I gotta go from Winterfall to Solitude, and I'm not taking the cart because I'm against paying gold for fast travel. So I gotta walk. I gotta walk the whole way.
I saved 7 silver in game, and it cost me $4,000 in real life.
Yes. I could have paid 50 gold of in-game currency instead. I decided to pay 4 Bitcoin.
Ooh, ouch. You're talking like 40 grand right there. So what's interesting is like, or I guess not 40, it's 4,000, 4 grand. Wait, I forget. Is Bitcoin?
Well, there was a time where it was 40.
Oh, actually, it might be up there. I think Bitcoin's still over 10 right now. No, I was going to say that one of the challenges, right? I keep forgetting that I have unlimited data plans everywhere I exist because I just realized that's my life and there's no way I'm going to get caught by the gotchas. And I don't know when it happened, but I looked at my phone internet at one point online and saw that at 1 month I hit 10 gig somehow on my phone, which surprised me because I'm usually on a Wi-Fi connection. And so even when I was trying to push it at one point to see, I was getting like 2. So when I got 10, I was like, I had to look back like, what did I do? I think maybe I accidentally downloaded COD on phone or something. And so 200 gigs. But no, so I have to accept that, yeah, that's a consideration I haven't had for mobile gaming that does require data. And it's only going to be more exasperated now because we have all the new phones that are coming out with support of 5G. And so even faster connections.
Again, the problem is, again, culture, right? There's absolutely no reason why we can't just have it. So 5G's coming out now. It's the new thing. The connection speed is insane. It might actually be better than some people's home broadband. Caps are BS anyway. We all know it. If we somehow moved our culture and our economy towards the point where, everybody just has 5G, it's unlimited go. Can you imagine the state of how mobile gaming would look then? Can you imagine that?
Well, I don't think we're far from that anyways. I think every every builder out there kind of assumes people are just going to use their bandwidth.
Well, we would get to the point where we would probably use our phones as terminals, right? We wouldn't be doing too much. They'd be beautiful screens and they'd have an input. But generally speaking, we don't need to do too much processing on a phone if we can do it on a server elsewhere and stream it, kind of like what NVIDIA or Stadia or whatever else are doing. If we could actually do it on a mobile device that we moved with and we could travel with and it still had a seamless connection. Because the technology's there. We can do it. But it's perfectly feasible. It's just that we will never do it because capitalism, right? So
yeah, I was going to say, you for the people discussing person, what are you thinking?
How dare you, yeah. Indeed.
Anyhow, before we go further with this conversation, I think we've talked a good sense of mobile. Before we continue further, I wanted to allow, before the end of the show, Todd,
yes,
to catch up and make up for some of the time not at the beginning of the show for any cleanup, follow-up things that you had in mind.
So sorry about that. First things first, the fiber connection is live.
That's
nice.
the point. We didn't see anything. Well, so
I
far,
did not see any freezing during this show.
Well, I think I finally isolated where that comes from.
Okay.
I have a 5G receiver for the wireless network that's being pumped out by the router.
Okay.
The 5G receiver is plugged into a gigabit switch.
Okay.
And then the gigabit switch goes to my NAS and my PC and maybe one other place. And I noticed that the power cord on that has been a little fritzy.
Oh,
and so what I think has been happening is that gigabit switch has either been getting really hot or just the position it was in every so often it would like
just enough of a hiccup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just enough to break the connection. But that's another story entirely. I downloaded World of Warships again this week. It's a large download, many gigabytes. I saw 40 megabytes download sustained.
Doesn't it feel good?
I was looking at the size of the total download to get World of Warships back up to the newest version, and I was thinking to myself, God, it's gonna take like half a day to download that, right? And then I just looked as the speed went up and up and up, and it's like 24, 25, 26, 28, 30, 32.
Okay.
I'm like, wow, that's going awfully fast.
Todd, tell me, do you remember, now this is going to throw people back to the Windows 95 days.
Yeah.
When you had the connection, because it used to be, right, when you went from dial-up to broadband, because even on the first dial-ups, right, when you went from like 33.6 to 56K, and you would see like a sustained download of like 5K, and you were just like, oh, snap, that copper in those phone lines is getting warm. Look how fast it's going. To the moment you first got a broadband connection and could go up to, say, 10 megabit or something, that it used to be the files you go, and the way the Windows 95 interface would go, it would count up, right, the speed. And most of the time, because of what was available to download online, maybe a song or two, if you're lucky, a fairly big AVI, you would see it. For me, I remember the first instances, the Windows interface for download time and how fast you're going would continually be counting up as the file finished. Right? That you would go and it's like, wait, how fast did I get? Did I get to, it was like 100 something and then it was done. Like, how fast is my connection? You know, you didn't have speed test and stuff like that.
And the things before speed test. Yep.
You literally just had to find the biggest files you could and try to download them. Well, because I remember in the heyday of the Napster days, right, when you could share various titles through other people's things.
Yes.
I would see, I could tell, like, oh, wait, this file's coming from someone, because you could check people's bandwidth for who you were connected to.
Oh,
this one's on dial-up.
Somebody bought a T1 for their house.
Oh, this is a college kid. They're on a campus with a dedicated network. Look at their connection. Let's download their entire library. of what they have connected just because it's so fast, and queue it up and just watch it like chug. And it was more because you could, not because you needed any of it. It's like, I mean, I don't need that album of whatever because who the hell is that? But man, look at them speeds.
Well, do you remember back when you know, Kaza and LimeWire and whatever?
Oh, yeah.
And people didn't always realize what they were sharing. They'd share like their entire user.
Oh my
drive.
God! Yes, so they just
you can often like,
drive.
see, like, people's like accounting, right, on their files, and madness.
Oh.
These days, you'd look at that and be like, "Wow, that's a huge breach in data protection."
Hey.
But now it's just like, but back then it was just normal.
Well, it's just because people were it was such a new concept because people didn't have their own home networks, right? They didn't network. They didn't. Yeah, I remember going on when I first got broadband because it was, and this is old school. It was AT&T at home, their first cable that hit Denver, and when they did it, they just basically literally connected everyone via a network connection. And so, because of that, if you didn't know how to set up your network security and just shared your computer, you could find other people on your node. And I remember going into someone in my neighborhood's C drive, right? They're my documents. And looking through all their files and opening up their resume file that said, I am a computer engineer and do security and do this. And I was like, oh man, I so wanted to edit the file and just say like,
I am terrible.
I don't know how to lock down my own network settings.
I am a computer engineer, comma, but not a very good one, period.
That's right. I was just like, I remember to this day because I was like, oh man, that was something I figured out quick. I was like, if I can see your files, you can see mine. Let me suddenly put passwords on everything or limit how I share. And you learn about subnetting and you learn about connection.
Yeah, so that's how they found so many guys who were like downloading illegal stuff, right? I don't mean copyright. I mean like
I know the bad things. Well, okay.
Yeah, but and it's because they look in their computer and just see it, right? They shared it.
Oh, basic security. But no, that's awesome. Todd, have you gone a step further and done a full test of any of the various bandwidth tests to see how close you're getting to what you hope?
So again, I just did the download of World of Warships and I ran speed tests at the same time. So I was getting 40 sustained on the World of Warships download, and then like another 4 to 8 megabytes a second.
Feels good.
Yeah, on top of that. So it was really, really sexy. And that's through the fiber router, through the 5G wireless network, through a gigabit network.
Yep.
From the wireless into my PC. I mean, it's not even a direct connection, which I would imagine would be even faster.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, really, really excited about that. It's been good, and so far, rock solid.
Right.
To go along with that, also inspired me to pull the trigger on VPN.
Okay.
Oh, you did it.
Yep.
Are we live through your VPN right now?
No. No, I will only use it to get the shows that I should be able to get because there should not be any region locking anywhere ever.
Agreed.
So I'm using it for that reason, and I will probably turn it on when I pay for stuff.
Makes sense.
I'm using my own credit card. So so there's that. I have watched some of the League of Legends Worlds.
Okay.
Over the last week.
Yeah.
Plus a little bit.
Yep, because Worlds has been going on. Yep.
And I have to say that credit where it's due, it's a lot better. Like the quality of the presentation is a lot better than it was the last time I watched.
Okay.
Which admittedly has been a while. Let's say on the order of 6-ish years or so.
You'd hope we learned something by then.
5 or 6 years. Yeah, but I was surprised. Like I was seeing replays.
Oh yeah,
right?
Like those quick. Yep. This just happened. Slow motion.
There would be a skirmish right in the middle. They would go back to the action just long enough for somebody to go back in, because obviously they're capturing this stuff.
Oh yeah, they've taken the cues from sports. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so they've got the camera view, or they've got the view of the screen when the action all got started, and they're talking about what's going on during the replay, so that even somebody like me who doesn't know what on earth is going on can at least try to follow it a little bit.
And plus,
Okay.
there's a lot of time after a combat when, half a team's dead,
Yeah,
or
you-
one
Right.
whole team is dead, and you're
Right.
just watching the other people farm, and it's dull. So why
Right.
not go and show the interesting thing and talk about?
Right. They've also gotten very good at recognizing when those situations are going to happen and when the other team is going to dive a tower.
Yep.
And so
Well-
they'll make sure that they see the tower fall, right? Or this is especially true when it's the base tower,
Yep.
right? In one of the 3 lanes. If somebody's pushing a base tower, you will not see a replay until after that's done. Although my experience has been by the time somebody's pushing a base tower, the game's probably over anyway.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Todd, did you realize that most of the camera focus in the game is all AI controlled?
I did not know that.
So you can just go into League of Legends and watch a match, replay someone's match or watch it live, and leave your hands completely off the controls once you start it. And it has an AI camera that will move you to the action. And because it does a proximity. I wish I knew more about the actual written AI behind it, but it focuses on proximity of characters to each other, proximity to objectives, health of objectives, number of, and it does like a ranked order of all of that.
That's
such
clever.
that you can just sit back and let it play, and you will always be watching the action. And in the game engine, because it's replaying the actual engine, you can cut the scenes, you can see where every depth is, every something like that is to re-highlight it, and you can click to any character and follow them. It's a piece that I think is something they did a little earlier when they were figuring out camera stuff that has allowed them to so quickly progress their quality in the overall casting.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I was really impressed that they had somebody that they have people in the lounge or in the host area in between games who's easy on the eyes.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that
they have taken
that was
many
a
cues.
nice surprise.
They have taken many cues from sports and other things.
Yep, only attractive presenters, male and female. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they've done that, right? Because they now don't just have the commentary person who's knowledgeable, who's like, you look at them like, you're the book guy. They have it on both ends where they are knowledgeable and have an aesthetic appeal. They have taken it to, they've made it a business. They've made business decisions.
Credit where it's due. There was last week or 2 weeks ago, like I bagged on it pretty hard, and to your guys' credit, like I checked it out.
I appreciate that you did.
I appreciate your open-mindedness, Todd. That's fantastic that you're willing to go and check that out after your previous bad experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if you don't take new information and apply it to what you know, right? Then you're doing yourself yourself and everybody else a disservice. So while I'm by no means perfect in doing that, I try to do that when
that's awesome.
when possible.
That's awesome.
So the last thing, and I'm going to try and clean this up in 3 minutes. This goes back to the episode that we talked about where we were talking about social media as the new town square.
Yes.
Yep.
So as I'm sure you are aware, there was news that came out about the family of one of the candidates for president.
Okay.
And some shady dealings that appear to have happened in at least the Ukraine, but also possibly in China.
Okay. Yep.
And because of the place of the original reporting on that story, Facebook and Twitter are censoring discussion around it.
Are they censoring discussion or the posts themselves and reposting stuff?
Define censoring as in they're removing or as in they're putting a tag.
The account of the news outlet that did the original reporting of it was at least suspended, if not banned, but I think only suspended after posting about it.
Can I ask what the original source is?
The original source was the New York Post.
Oh, that's surprising.
So
Which, again, different. So for those that don't know, different from the New York Times.
Yes.
Right. So the
Still
New York
surprising.
Times and the New York Post.
Not an established news
thing.
organization that had print media papers like the Times. This is a separate entity that has come up since.
So yeah, I think its etymology goes back to that period of time of American print media where every large, what would you call it? Every large print market had both a liberal and a conservative newspaper.
Yes.
And the New York Times was the liberal newspaper and the New York Post was the conservative newspaper.
Okay.
Now over time, I think that's changed. I think the New York Post has become more tabloidy.
I think that's what I had seen a lot of conversation about.
Sports section is infamous for stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, these were news items that came out. They were not denied by anybody in the 24 hours after the stories ran. They weren't denied by anybody. Nobody commented about them at all that I saw or to that I'm aware of. And so I want to say that the New York Post Twitter account was suspended and Facebook was removing were they removing shares? They were either removing shares or removing discussion about that story.
Okay.
Sorry, excuse me. So this is what I would say when I made my statement about nationalizing social media. This is the kind of thing that I was trying to avoid. Right? We have what appears to be a potentially important story in the weeks before, and I should go back and I should say this. The chain of custody for this information before it came out in the New York Post is pretty sketchy.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, because I have heard a lot about this as well.
It was data that was on a laptop that was left in the
allegedly was left in the care of a
repair shop.
Oh, I have heard of this. Yeah.
Abandoned, and then Rudy Giuliani got his hands on it.
Which argue what you think for sourcing as well.
Well, and again, so I don't want to.
Well, okay, so I will, because of the time constraint. Well, because of the time constraint, I will say, from what I understand of the response and the why that was announced for the limiting of the articles, in some cases taking down such, was due to what they've said in the past of the way they track stories and how fast something catches fire and takes on versus any, like you said, supporting facts behind type thing. And while the base idea of the story had factual emphasis too, that this information out there, and like you said, was not being disputed, that the claims that were made in association with the base facts were what were not substantiated. That the information supposedly on said laptop and what it could have meant was where the story was going beyond what was factual, and that was the primary piece that it was getting limited for, because essentially it was on the edge of conspiracy theory versus here is the facts of a story, and the news entities that later ran with it continue to perpetuate that to a degree of saying, but what if this is the case? And oh my God, what could be implemented by something like this if it's true? Versus anything that says, here's the facts of the case and therefore here's what's being reported. The challenge is you had people using this tiny bit of potential truth and spinning this massive conspiracy around it of where money might go, people's influences and things like that. And that's what was being attacked as to why it was being limited. And so you now get this spin that's saying, oh, you're now doing something in favor of one candidate versus another, when what's being missed in that conversation often is when they try to do a comparison of like, but you don't do this to other stories. It's like, I've argued, show me the level of conspiracy being perpetuated by groups that are against the other candidate. versus the level of conspiracy being presented as reasons to be concerned about this candidate. And in my experience, those are very different to the level. Like
Russia election interference in 2016. That is your story. That was perpetuated as a salacious, impeachable offense for 3 years.
Yes.
And at the end of it all,
yes,
it was nothing.
That's not true.
Exactly nothing.
That's not true. How many people went to jail over it? Because the key was it was an impeachable offense that showed that there was. The only conclusion was that the current presidency at the time did not actively collude with Russia. However, that a lot of the people underneath were working along the lines of and with Russia, just not with a knowingly purpose of trying to how was this specific? So it showed a lot of people involved did do criminal acts. And even down to the final report that basically said that person one said do this, and yet nobody chose to attack person one, which was identified as the current president. But the person who went to jail for doing the act, who said I was told to do this because the president told me to do this, he went to jail. And what?
Who was that?
Oh my gosh!
I don't know.
Was it his old attorney at the time? I have to go find the names.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But essentially involved with that, they had like 6 or 7 people go to prison for one line to Congress about the things they did and the overall things, and yet people try to say nothing came out of it. It showed that there were many issues that were likely criminal offenses, but that then Congress chose not to actually apply them to the president because all the issues of what's a sitting president and the legal actions. There was nothing that came out and said no wrongdoing happened. The report actually came out showing there were multiple cases of wrongdoing, and that they said that we are not the entity to charge someone. That is Congress's role. But here are all the things that were wrong. And so when they talk specifically about the Mueller report, that's where you get one side who continuously says, see, they said nothing was wrong, only because they held on to a term they chose to propagate, which was collusion. With the other side actually showed, no, here are the things that were wrong, but that wasn't the headline that everyone was stuck to. And that's part of the challenge.
You never had the full picture. Because I feel like I'm doing everybody who's listening to this thing a disservice right now.
Well, no, you are explaining you're saying a big message that was perpetuated. And what I'm providing is there was a counter message that didn't get as much play. And a big part of that is because those affected, meaning the president himself, openly kept saying the narrative of, see, I'm innocent, and here's why. And everyone else was like, but you're not, and here's why. But he was the one with the platform.
But more than just him, right? I mean, there are prominent people all over the place that were saying it was nothing.
Yeah, but the prominent people were all in support of the same group and the same ideology and the same person. It was a whole. I would say not so much, but again, we could argue about this for days and days. And days. Well, I will say that
it is the end of the show, gentlemen. I know it's an interesting topic.
Well, I would just highlight the overall of that. Yes, that is currently a thing that's challenging social media. I agree. And what I've seen is it looks like companies trying to do their best effort. I think it can be made a case as to whether or not there is some bias being shown. However, in most cases what I'm seeing happen is more just a reaction based on the kind of things that are having to be checked. And that right now I'm seeing one side getting checked to a certain level versus another based on the content being provided. But because of that, I am definitely seeing a continuous narrative that says, but they're only hitting us. And it's like, well, but you're the only ones actively providing garbage. So that, of course, the algorithms are going to hit the shit piles. Sorry.
To put a close on this bit so Ken can
do his part.
I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to paraphrase one of my favorite economists. If your social media / media distribution company has a trust and safety council, shoot them, short them, and run. Take us home, Ken.
Yep. Go, Ken.
Okay, you have been listening to ShowX live on this Sunday, as I quickly check the date, 25th of October. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We very much appreciate it. You can support us in so many ways. Thank you very much, Legend, in the chat. That was amusing memory. You can support us in so many ways. Subscribe to this channel, hit the little notification button as well if you haven't already. Be sure to host us by going to your own channel, and I think there's a list there or something under your settings. I don't know. Google it. And you can add us to your auto-host list. That way, whenever we're live, if you're not live, we would be on your channel instead, and that's a good way to support us as well. You can also share us on Twitter, so retweet everything there. Share our Instagram posts to your followers by adding it to your story there. We'd very much appreciate that as well. As well as just commenting and liking stuff that we do. Also go to reddit.com/r/showx to follow any discussions going on there and see our what's going on. Let's check out our show on Wednesday. It was called the Novelty Book Nook. Now it's going to be renamed to Where's My Prose At? Because of the copyright issues. Be sure to check that out. That's going to be at 6 p.m. EST, 10 p.m. GMT due to the clock change. You can also check out our Halloween stream that Ken and I will be doing because we're going to be going out to a graveyard and live streaming that experience of us reading ghost stories and drinking a hot cider, and come and join us for a good Halloween time and my first American Halloween, and see us get spooked out by ourselves, which will inevitably happen. It'll be quite funny, I'm sure. And also, you can support us by going to patreon.com/showx, and minimum of $1 per month. But honestly, that is that's only if you've exhausted every other option. Don't feel like you need to give us money. Instead, if you actively share us each week, share us around, like our stuff, etc., that's number one. And we appreciate everything that you guys do. We love you guys. We love how active the chat's been. We really enjoy reading through all that. And of course, you can also send in emails to VtWShowX@gmail.com. So thank you for hosting, Mr. Wayne, and thank you for being here for the chat as well, Todd. And thank you both for being the awesome people that you are.
Absolutely, sir.
Shucks,
thank you.
Ken.
And definitely check us out. Check out the new Where Your Pros At. I still want to go with are the pros in the house? Is the pros in the
There's
house?
some pros in this house. There's some pros in this house.
So many things to do with that.
Honestly, the way he said it, I thought it was going to be a new forum for depressed people. Where my Prozac?
There are so many places to go with that name, Ken. Do it.
I saw that one.
Like if it's Super Mario, that's what it would be, right? Where's my Prozac?
That's very good. Well
nice. No, all of that's wonderful. So check those all out. Check out for some spooky themed things coming up this week. So keep an eye on the show page and we will announce things as they come. We look forward to hearing from you. And thank you, Ionis, for the email, and everyone else. We love when you guys participate. With that, we are going to be here, and we'll catch you again next week for a post-Halloween show, like maybe costumes and all. We'll see how that goes. So we'll check out you guys next time. And with that, as I think we like to say, everybody, thank you for the show. Salute. Out there, everybody. Bye.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.